Hello everybody, welcome to the table. Today we are taking a look at a knife from Smith & Sons. So this right here is their Mudbug. This is a new release for 2023, and the best thing about this knife, of course, the reason why you're probably watching this video right now is that the Mudbug here is made in the United States. So Smith & Sons has their US manufacturing back in town, which is really what we're looking for, more options for traditional styled US made knives. So this one right here is the sodbuster style. It is a larger knife, so we can go ahead real quick. We'll look at the specs. And so let me pull out a ruler here and you can get to check out the length, because our blade length here on the Mudbug is about 3.5 inches long, as you can see. And the overall length is coming in around 8.5 inches. So it is a full-size sodbuster style knife. It is a lockback mechanism, so it's not a slip joint, and it's very, very secure to open. The opening action has a nail nick right here, as you can see. So nice and smooth, no issues opening the knife at all whatsoever. This one is in the natural burlap micarta, so you can see the color there. In terms of texture, it is relatively smooth, and you can kind of see the thickness of the knife right here as well. So it is definitely a hand-filling knife. That is for sure. We do have some modern achievements here on this knife, I guess you could say, in that they decided on this sodbuster to put in a Torx pivot here, so that way you can tighten or loosen the action, to your specification and your preference. Right out of the box, though, it's really nice. There's no blade play. Lockup is really rock solid, so it's really well done. Taking a look at the blade itself, we can see right here we have a stone-washed D2 steel blade, and it has the Smith & Sons Knife Company logo on there. Reverse side has nothing, but we have the logo, and of course some of you are going to say, what, D2 steel, what's going on there? And again for the price, I think D2 is probably a lower end offering, but you do have to keep in mind these are US produced knives. They are made by hand. These are not stamped out by the thousands in a Chinese factory. And so that does explain some of the cost of this knife, because when you are buying a domestic made product like this, you are going to pay more than something that's cheap and mass produced, especially when each individual knife, is hand filed, hand fit to make sure that the action is nice. And that's in their own promotional material, what they're saying there. So everything is very smooth. All of the contoured handles here, I'm not seeing really any issues. The lockup, you can see, is pretty solid. Or not lockup, the centering, sorry. Centering is good. No issues there. And again, just the walk and talk, very nice. Opening it one-handed, probably possible if you really tried to. I'm not going to do it on camera. It's kind of awkward. But I would prefer to use this as a two-handed opener. If you really wanted to, you could use one of those, screw-on thumb studs. But I think that might, interfere with some of the aesthetic of the knife, because I think a lot of the people who buy this knife, they might be collectors. They may not be people who go out in the mud, so to speak, and use their knives, although you certainly could. It's really well built, really well made, very clean construction all around. So, even inside the handle there, look at how clean that insides are. Very nicely done. So good job to Smith & Sons on the construction of the knife. And so I'm excited to see some more domestic knife production happening here in this country. And of course, even the packaging, it harkens back to the older days, older times. We have a genuine Smith & Sons high-quality folding knives box. Never a dull moment. And we can see on the reverse here the model number. So this is our Mudbug, natural burlap micarta, and of course the model number if you want to search that out. And so I do imagine they'll probably come out with different colors, different variants of micarta, maybe different handle materials in the future as well. But in the box, we do have our Smith & Sons fold out here, basically describing the knife, the warranty process, and so on and so forth. So care and maintenance, so very nice to see that. We do have a lanyard included as well. It's a nice leather lanyard, which again is makes it kind of unique. I've never had a leather lanyard included with a knife, and so if you want to put that on the knife, you certainly could. And of course the wax paper that the knife comes wrapped in to protect it from corrosion during transit, and a sticker. So sticker looks really cool. Born on the Bayou, Smith & Sons Knife Company. That's awesome. So the presentation is excellent. So if you have someone in your life who collects these kind of knives, I think they would be absolutely tickled pink, so to speak, to get something like this as a gift. And so again, like I was saying, the price is quite high for what we're getting here. So this knife retails, or at least I purchased it from GP Knives for $185. So $185 for a US made sodbuster, large sodbuster style knife with a lockback mechanism, D2 steel blade, beautiful stonewash on it, and most importantly, made in the United States. And so we're going to make some comparisons with some other US made knives that I have on the table right here, just to give you an idea of the size of the Smith & Sons, because I can say, yeah, it's a large sodbuster, but what does that mean? Let's make some comparisons here. So we're going to set this down. And for a small comparison, this right here is a Case Sodbuster Junior. So you can see this is going to be a smaller knife all around, but you can just check them out side by side. And now this one was rehandled, so I don't think Case makes them with the micarta and the red G10, but this was a rehandled knife, but the blade is a Case Sodbuster Junior. Another Sodbuster pattern knife I have on the table right here. This is from Great Eastern Cutlery. This is their bullnose. So this is the number 71. I don't have the larger Sodbuster from Great Eastern Cutlery, so that we're going to have to make do with this as a comparison. So let's put that right between there. And we can see it's a little larger than the Sodbuster Junior, but of course not as large as the Mudbug. And to get something as large as the Mudbug, let's actually compare it to a full-size Sodbuster knife. And so this is from Behr & Sons, and I love this series of knives they made with this smooth blue G10 and the polished shields and pins. Really well made. But this is a large Sodbuster. I think they call it a farmhand from Behr & Sons. So this is also a US-made knife. But you can see the size difference there. It's getting much more comparable. So if you have a large sodbuster from similar companies, you can get an idea of the width and size. You can see the handles there. The thickness is very similar. And so what we have on the table here are the Mudbug and a lot of non-locking slip joints. But I do want to make a comparison. Of course, we can see we have a buck sheath right here. This is a buck 110, and this is one of the lightweight variants. This was a special run, so it's not, maybe the best comparison, but in terms of size, this buck 110 right here, we can put this next to the Mudbug as well. Let's set these guys aside. So here's the buck 110 plastic handles. It's a lightweight version, and you can put it side by side with the Mudbug, and you can see it actually is slightly larger. And so this one is the plastic handled version, so it's lighter in weight, but if you have that traditional brass and wood 110, it's probably going to weigh more than our Smith & Sons Mudbug right here, because the Mudbug, this one weighs in at 3.8 ounces. So it's not a heavyweight, even though it is a big knife by all means. But while we're looking at them, again, the thickness. So I know a lot of the newer buck 110 lightweights are thin as well, but this one is a full size, full handled version, similar lockback style, as you can see right there. Lanyard hole. Of course, the difference is with the buck 110s, most of them are going to be the pinned pivot and the pinned construction, so you can't get it apart. But it's a really good comparison in my opinion. So that is the buck 110 lightweight. This one was a neat one. This one was in CPM 154. I think they called this one the Smoke Jumper. This was an SK Blades exclusive, and I wish they were still around. But the Smith & Sons right here, really cool knife. I love the fact that I was able to get my hands on one, and even as of filming this video, they are still available at GP Knives, maybe other dealers as well. So I am hoping that all of you out there who have an interest in such a knife will be able to get your hands on one. And even if you don't get this particular variant, I am sure that they will be readily available in new different, variants of micarta, maybe other materials in the future. But before we leave, I mean, if I had to say anything negative about the knife, it's a really nice folder, but when we look close on the handle, it can't be all positive, right? There is some small, it's even hard for the camera to pick up, but you can see there's a small void in the micarta there, a little black mark. So maybe a small little defect in the material itself as they were polishing it down. It feels smooth to hand, but I mean, if you had like a needle or something, I'm sure you could pick it in there and mess with it. But that's really a small finish issue, not something that I would really nitpick on. But if you are a collector, maybe that's something to keep in mind if you want the absolute perfect museum showpiece, But these are meant not only as collectors, but as users. Very solid, very nice knife from Smith & Sons. Never a dull moment, the Mudbug. Have any questions? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this knife. But other than that, have an excellent day. See you later.